Welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So today I'm going to answer some questions about Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, otherwise known as PCOS. I get a lot of emails about this because I know many women are dealing with this, and I was diagnosed with Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome about 10 years ago in my mid-20s, and I was able to reverse it. And so I get tons of questions as to what I did, and people just asking specific questions about diet and lifestyle. So I'd like to go over the questions and also give some tips and what I've learned, because with my coaching practice, I would say half of the women that I coach is for Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome and to get their body back into balance, adjust their diet and lifestyle. So, and I've seen what works and what doesn't, so which is great. So I will share what I can with you today. So pretty much, I was diagnosed with it in my mid-20s after my period had stopped for, I'd say, almost 2 years. And I had an ultrasound, and my ovaries were covered in cysts, both ovaries. And I had my hormone levels checked, which they were all imbalanced. I had adult acne, like terrible acne. It got worse and worse as years progressed. I think into my 30s, it was probably my early 30s, it was at its worst. And so those were my main symptoms, was no period, the cysts on the ovaries, the acne, and imbalance, hormone levels were imbalanced. So people have asked me, was I overweight, was I obese at the time, and did I also have excessive hair growth? So I was actually underweight when I was diagnosed with Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, and I'd always been very slim as a kid, as an adult. So it wasn't a weight issue, and I didn't have excessive hair growth on the body or face because, as you can tell, I'm blonde. So, and it's just, that was just one thing I wasn't affected with. So those are two things that I didn't have. But for women most women who do have Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome are overweight and do have issues with losing weight, because it's an issue of insulin resistance, or someone can actually be diabetic, and therefore it's just really hard to shift the weight because their body is not metabolizing sugar properly, and at the same time there's always an imbalance of the hormones, too much androgens, things like that. So I feel for women that try to lose weight with Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome, but the good thing is that if someone loses, they say as little as like 5 to 10 pounds, a lot of times they can regain their fertility and get their period back, which is a great thing. So it's even a little bit can do a lot. So with how I was able to reverse it I was at a point where I was desperate. I was consulting with an endocrinologist that was for many years trying to get me on hormones and put me on the pill and take progesterone and hormone replacement therapy, all sorts of stuff. And I didn't want to touch any of it because when I was a teenager and in my 20s, I think I was on the birth control pill for at least 10 years. And it's only when I got off the pill that I found out that, you know, I was not getting a period again, and I was having all these issues with my hormones. That for me, I felt a lot of it had to do with actually being on the pill for so long that the last thing I wanted to do was go back on it. Plus, in many ways, by taking hormones is you're feeding your body artificial hormones, and your body becomes reliant on those hormones and is therefore like unable to produce its own, or it weakens the body's ability to produce its own hormones. So that's what you want to start supporting, is your body being able to get back into balance. And a lot of people are always asking me, you know, are there specific foods that you should eat that will reverse Polycystic Ovarian Syndrome? And I have to say, it's not about the foods healing you, it's about your body healing you. But the thing is with the food and the diet is that you have to make sure that you're eating foods that support your body's health. So it's not about eating a lot of something and that's going to be the magic bullet. It's about taking the foods out that are imbalancing your body, that are causing havoc in the body, that your body isn't able to tolerate or is sensitive to. So for me, what I had done in my early 30s was I went on to a raw food diet. I was vegetarian at that time, and I overnight went on to a raw food diet, which I did for about 4 years. And I'd say 2 years into it, I went to have another ultrasound and had my blood work done. My acne had cleared up, and when I had the ultrasound, there was not a single cyst on my ovaries. And even the technician was just floored, because she looked at all the previous years and she was just like, this can't be. And also had my hormone levels checked, and everything went back into balance. But it didn't take overnight, it took a few years. And from working with so many people that didn't necessarily go on to a raw food diet, I've seen a lot of people heal themselves and reverse the polycystic ovarian syndrome just by being on a whole food diet. So it's not necessarily that you need to go to the extreme of eating just raw fruits and vegetables and a few nuts and seeds. Eating whole foods and eliminating all processed food, all processed sugars, all processed starches and flours, getting rid of hydrogenated oils, getting rid of artificial sweeteners, getting rid of the sugar, getting rid of coffee and stimulants, and even getting rid of alcohol. You know, just get rid of it. All the stuff that's throwing your body off balance and letting it heal. And for me, and what I've seen with so many people, is that's what works. You know, it's not so much how the food is prepared, as long as it's prepared with whole natural foods. So that's the number one thing, is keeping things simple and making your own food, making sure that all the ingredients you're using are whole foods, and staying away as much as possible from anything that's processed. And just by doing that, you'll see quick results, because it's all the artificial stuff, all the additives, the preservatives, the high fructose corn syrup, the artificial sweeteners, all that. It's like the body doesn't know how to deal with it. And so if every day someone is just eating a lot of junk or a lot of processed food, then the body has to deal with that before it can start taking care of itself. And so if someone is sick, a lot of times if they get onto a whole food diet with as much, if not all, their food being fresh and real food, they're always amazed to see how the body can heal itself, and how they start feeling better, they start looking better, and even small little issues that they never even thought about. One day they wake up and they're like, oh, I no longer have this problem. So the first thing that I suggest is to get onto a whole food diet.